Hi, I'm Rebecca from engVid. In this lesson, I'll show you how to make an appointment in English. Usually, that means setting up two things. Setting up a time to meet and a place to meet. It also includes using the right expressions and the right prepositions, all right? So let's learn what they are and how to use them. So, here we go. So there are many ways in which you can set up an appointment and many different kinds of appointments that you can set up. So let's start with a basic expression that you could use. This is when you are suggesting a time to someone, either on the phone or usually these days in an email, okay, or a message. So you could start by saying, could we meet? Okay, that is a semi-formal expression. It works in formal situations. It works in informal situations. So it's a good expression to know. It will work for you anywhere and everywhere. So, could we meet? But what comes after that? That's where you have a whole lot of prepositions. So let's see what they are. Let's talk about the prepositions of time that you're going to need and then the prepositions of place. So, could we meet on Friday or on June 10th? So, we use on to talk about one day or one date. All right? If you're not sure of these, I have another full lesson all about the prepositions of time like this, okay? I'll give you a link to that. If you want to study that a little bit more, you can go and check that out. But here also, you will be able to, after this lesson, make an appointment, okay? So, on Friday or on June 30th, one day or one date, we use the preposition on. Then, when we give the time, we use at. So at is very specific. At 3:30, at 4 o'clock, at noon. Okay? Now, does it matter if we say, could we meet at 3:30 on Friday? Or if we say, could we meet on Friday at 3:30? It doesn't really matter. I prefer this way. Why? Because if I say, could we meet on Friday? That is already talking about the bigger picture, the day. And maybe that person's just not working on Friday. So then the time and all of that is really irrelevant and it becomes secondary. So first start, I think, with the day and then the time. But if you switch them around, don't worry, as long as you're using the right prepositions, okay? So we would say something like, could we meet on Friday at 3:30? Or if you need to say this plus this, the day plus the date, then you would say it like this. Could we meet on Friday, June 10th at 3:30? Okay? If you're writing it, you would write, could we meet on Friday, comma, June 10th at noon? Okay? Question mark. All right? So that's for the time. Now, what about the place? All right. So place, we have three prepositions, all right? At, in, and on. At and in usually drive people a little bit crazy, okay, when they're learning English, because they're a little bit flexible. And if you make a mistake with that, really don't worry about it too much. It's not the end of the world. At, we're talking kind of just at that location, okay? And in is a little bit like inside a place. So that's kind of what we mean. But sometimes you'll hear people using them in different ways, okay? So we could say, could we meet at the airport? Okay? So we could talk about a location. People also say things like, could we meet at the conference? Well, the conference is actually an event, but the event is taking place at a location. So that's what they mean, okay? Could we meet at the conference? Could we meet at the seminar? Okay? And things like that. Or could we meet at the concert? That's an event, but it's a location where that event is taking place. And that's why it's under the category of place. All right? So then we come to in. And again, in, you're referring a little bit more to like inside. So could we meet in the lobby of your hotel? Okay, the lobby, that open space in a hotel where people sit and wait for other people or maybe have something to drink, things like that. Okay, or could we meet in the cafeteria? Okay, again, really referring more to like inside. Okay, all right. Next, nowadays, people very often don't meet in person at all. Okay, and also if you're speaking internationally, then you're not going to meet in person. So you're talking about an online platform, right? So there, the correct preposition to use is on. Could we meet on Friday at 3:30 on Zoom or on Teams? Okay, whichever platform you are planning to use or you're suggesting. So that's when it's online. And if somebody is actually going to meet you somewhere, you could say, could we meet on the 3rd floor of my building? Okay. So if you're talking about a particular floor, then we say on also. You got all that? Okay. I know it's a little bit confusing, but you can get it. Okay. Just do one at a time. Some of my clients even put up a little card or a little notice or a little drawing on their bulletin board or they keep it next to their phone or next to their computer. So when they're typing or when they're speaking, they just look quickly. Oh, okay, add on. All right, I got that. Okay. So do that as long as you need it, but very soon you will get it. Okay. Now let's practice a little bit. So let's suppose this is the information that you want to communicate. So the information you have is Monday, April 10th, 2 o'clock, lobby. So give me the full question. What would it be? Could we meet on Monday, April 10th? Okay, because we have Monday and April 10th. We don't have to say on Monday and on April 10th. If you just said Monday, then you say on Monday. If you just said April 10th, then we'd say, could we meet on April 10th? But if you say both, then you don't need to say the on twice. So, could we meet on Monday, April 10th? Look here. At 2 o'clock in the lobby of the hotel. Okay, good. You've got it. A lot of these little prepositions, right? Just in this one question, but that's fine. You're mastering it. Next, this day. First of all, before I tell you, say the name of this day. Okay? Because so many people make a mistake when they pronounce this particular day. So you should say Wednesday. I know there's a D there and it sounds like it's really long, but it's Wednesday. Say it after me. Wednesday. Okay? Don't say wed. It's Wednesday. Two syllables. Okay? So, could we meet on Wednesday at 4 o'clock on Skype? Okay? All right. So, based on this, let's do a little bit more practice to see that you can master it. And you will. Now let's look at some other ways in which we can ask the questions in order to make an appointment. Okay? So we've already looked at could we meet? And as I mentioned, you can use that in any situation. It's fine. It's kind of semi-formal. Okay? A little bit more formal is this one. Would you be available? Okay? A little bit more formal. You can definitely use it in those kind of formal business contexts. Would you be available on Monday, June 5th at 3 o'clock? You still have to use those prepositions, okay? But this is how you would begin, okay? So these are 3 options here. This one, are you free? This is the most, what? Informal, right? So are you free on Monday at 3? Okay. Are you free on Tuesday, April 25th at 5 o'clock? You might still give all that information, but just the way that you ask the question indicates the formality of it. Okay? So as I said, this is semi-formal. This is the most formal. And this is probably the most informal. Okay? And there are many variations on this. You can, instead of saying, are you free, you could say, are you available on, and so on. So you will find variations, but you don't need to learn too many different ways to say something. Especially when you're learning a new language, it's more important to learn a few good ways than learning too many ways. All right? Next, let's look at these three. Now, here, this is when you were making the suggestions about the time. You were suggesting. You were initiating that conversation. But here is a more general way that you start. And then you could say, when could we meet? And the other person will answer. Okay? The other person will make the suggestion. Well, we could meet on, or well, could you meet on this time, at this time, on this date, and so on. So these are the questions where you're asking just a general question first. When could we meet? Or when would you be available? A little more formal again. And the last one, most informal. When are you free? And the person would say, well, I'm free on Friday at 3 o'clock. Okay? Or again, learn one of them. If you're a beginner, or if you get confused, just learn one. Could we meet? When could we meet? Okay? If you want to go a little bit further, learn the other options. All right? Good. Next, so let's suppose somebody suggests a time. Okay, could we meet on Friday at 4 o'clock? So how do you answer? Well, you're either going to say yes or no, right? It either works for you or it doesn't. So you could answer again in many different ways. But here's something that you could write. Yes, that would be great. Or yes, that would be perfect. Or just, yes, that's great. Yes, that's perfect. Okay? So it depends again on the formality, how well you know that person, and so on, and how informal you can be. But let's suppose that time is not possible for you, or that day. Then you could say something like this. Sorry, I'm not available then. Just use the word then. The word then covers whatever they said. So if they said, are you available on Friday at 4 o'clock? And you say, sorry, I'm not available then. Then means Friday at 4 o'clock. Okay, so you don't have to repeat everything again. And then it's your turn to suggest another time. So you would say, sorry, I'm not available then. How about Tuesday at 9 o'clock in the morning? Or what about Tuesday at 9? Okay, so these are the ways. This is usually how the communication goes back and forth, whether it's a conversation or whether it's through writing. All right, now that's when you're kind of setting up appointments with people in terms of business or even social things. All right, but here, sometimes you have to call to make an appointment with a doctor or for some kind of official appointment or visit. Then you would probably be calling. It's possible you're writing by email, but if you're calling, you could say something like this. Hello, sometimes you can introduce yourself, but you don't need to. They'll usually ask you. Just say, hello, I'd like to make an appointment with Dr. Adams, please. And then the receptionist will probably ask you, all right, what's your name? Okay, well, Dr. Adams is available on Friday, April 25th at 3 o'clock. Does that work for you? Is that convenient for you? Okay, but you would say, I'd like to make an appointment with Dr. Adams, please, and then follow the conversation. Or, for example, I'd like to make an appointment for a blood test. Let's suppose you're calling a clinic or a hospital or something like that. The same thing, same process, okay? I'd like to make an appointment for a blood test or for an x-ray or whatever it may be. All right? So here we have looked at several different ways in which you could make an appointment and set up your plans wherever you go, and whether it's by telephone or by email or by messenger. Okay? So that's it for now. if you would like to practice, which I recommend, those prepositions of time and place, because those are the critical little words, right? That you need to get right in order to ask these questions correctly. Please go to our website at engvid.com, and there you can do a quiz where you can really master those little words and ask these questions correctly. Take care. Bye for now, and all the best with your English.